Hi, I'm Oxnard.
I'm Dexter.
Boss.
Oh, bud, welcome to another review of a Game of Thrones episode. A lot of crazy stuff's going on. Jon and Ygritte are walking around. Robb gets more than he bargains for when his wife gets nude. Sansa and Margaery are talking. Tyrion's up to some stuff. Tywin and Joffrey have a conversation. Daenerys is up to her old games. Gendry and Melisandre have a very warm conversation about how he's going to get burned.
Very warm.
Arya, Beric, and Thoros are up to some goofiness. Jaime and Bran are doing some stuff. Theon, too, and Bran and Hodor are goofing it up.
Hodor.
Hodor. The end.
Done.
That, by the way, that was my favorite Hodor line of all seasons.
Hodor.
I
Hodor?
thought he did that Hodor the best.
Okay, we'll get...
It was a really good Hodor, actually.
Because he made this awkward
Because he's
look.
like, Hodor?
Hodor?
Yeah.
And the way that actor, through that performance, I have a question to ask you based on that.
Okay.
Very interesting question. Well,
Okay.
we'll get to it.
All right.
All right, so...
So, episode 7, season 3, The Bear and the Maiden Fair.
All
Written by George Martin.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This was there
Every
was a
time-
much different, there was a different feel to this episode.
Yeah, every time George Martin is involved, like, did he wrote...
He wrote the
last
ninth
episode?
episode last season, where the Battle of Blackwater Bay, which was the only thing that happened in that episode was the battle.
Yeah.
happened, you know,
Every
but
time
he
he's
went
involved,
all over the place.
there's
this
a
time.
distinct, and I never know. You're always the one who tells me, oh, by the way, George Martin wrote that.
And
one.
I didn't know. I didn't realize until this morning when somebody, guy I work with, who loves the show and the books, he told me that he wrote it. And I was okay. And then a lot of things made sense for me. It felt the feelings I had while I was watching it made sense then, because it just felt different.
Him
and it was
writing
really
the episode, it comes through because I always detect there's a very distinct change in quality and like the way. You know exactly what I mean. People who watch the show know what I mean, and they've read the books.
Yeah.
It just, you can feel George coming through. He's like, look at that. It says written by George R.R. Martin.
Well, were you watching at all last
No,
night?
I missed that because I was writing notes. And it was a female director this episode, too. I just want to point out.
okay.
So.
And this episode also starred Bart the Bear.
Oh.
That's his name.
nice.
All right.
In the credits.
Bart the Bear.
That's in the credits.
All right,
there's
we'll
a
get
screen.
to the bear.
From
There's
the
a screen.
edge.
It just says Bart the Bear.
Special guest appearance.
Nothing. It doesn't even say that. It just has there'll be several names on the screen. This one, it just goes to the next one. All it says is Bart the Bear.
I think
Really?
there's
Yeah, it's
several.
so funny.
I think there's several Bart the Bears though, because there was a Bart the Bear in that movie The Edge, but I think that guy who
It's not the
trained
same
that
bear?
he has he's
A bunch of
trained
different
multiple
bears?
ones, and
Oh,
I think
interesting.
He names them all Bart.
I don't know. I don't think they're all named Bart, but I think
That was like at the
there's
end-
more than
the
that.
end-
How long do bears live? Because I'm pretty sure that can't.
Maybe
Could
20
it be the same bear from
20?
the Edge?
Nah, I'm pretty sure it's not.
Okay.
20 years, maybe? I would guess.
That was in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
Was that
Yeah, it was a
Alec
while-
Baldwin
it was
and
a while
Anthony
ago.
Hopkins?
Probably not even 20 years.
Anyway, moving on. Sorry.
First character is Jon.
Yep.
Apparently they got over the wall and they climbed back down the other side. They spared us that.
Yeah. He tried to cut the same guy, tried to cut them loose again when they were climbing
It was
down.
the same thing, but in reverse.
Yeah.
So Ygritte, they start talking about honor and the houses and the sigils and the beating of the drums, and Ygritte is like, she doesn't understand that at all. And she's making fun of the drums. She goes, right left foot, left foot.
Some more southern.
I just really like her accent.
right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot. It's a terrible impersonation. Yeah, I mean, it was funny because this morning when I realized that George Martin wrote the episodes, because I was writing in my notes like, Jon Snow was definitely, the writing and the performance was better in this episode than it has been. I felt like,
Yeah.
and then a lot more stuff for his character I felt like was coming through in his performance. So when I found out that Martin had written it, that made a lot of sense to me. But yeah, he has the words with
Maybe George is watching and like seething, going, "No, this is no."
I'm pretty sure he heard me when last few episodes.
Oh,
I was
he
saying I
listens.
didn't like
He leaves
Jon Snow
comments.
stuff.
The thing is, like, I watch all the comments. Every time he comments, I don't put it up because I don't want to build up our.
Oh yeah, well, we don't want to name drop.
Yeah,
But yeah, we happen to be very close personal
Yeah,
friends.
I mean,
okay?
he lives up the street, and
Yeah.
I see him on occasion.
Yeah.
And I was reading, like, he writes all these books in a very old DOS program.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because that's like, and a lot of writers do this. They have some writers.
Well, I know David McCullough still uses a typewriter.
Yeah, some writers they only use a computer for research.
Yeah,
and so
interesting.
George, he uses, I forget the exact pro. It's
He uses quill and paper. Iris.
Can you imagine that?
Quill or something crazy? Can you imagine? Imagine like he hands write these things with pencil.
Oh my
like
God.
Tolkien. I think Tolkien did that.
Really?
I know that Tolkien, he wouldn't like rewrite something. He wouldn't go back and rewrite it. He would go back and rewrite the entire story.
Yeah.
Instead of just rewriting a certain part.
Because he would get, I guess, discover like mistakes he had made along the way or
yeah,
something.
and he would then start from the beginning again.
Yeah.
But that's pretty crazy. I didn't know he was an old DOS because I think I read something in like part of the book where it's like thank you to
it's literally
acknowledgments, and he was thanking somebody in one of the books, I can't remember. Thanks for saving my computer. I wouldn't be able to have the.
No, it's literally.
You.
I think it's like
So
some
that makes
old computer
sense.
from the '80s, and I think it's like some old programming.
Like a Mac 2.
It's like
or
some
whatever.
old programming software that he writes
hell?
out because that's just what he's used to, I guess.
That's so weird.
We'll keep going.
Okay.
And so,
so then John, he talks to the Warg guy who was going to cut him loose, and he was saying, you don't understand like how it is. Ygritte understands. And there was like a really awesome line that I can't remember, but it's like until they're useful, and then they kill each other
right.
until you can't. So,
and who's the red-haired guy?
Tormund,
like, so before
that was funny.
He's like giving him sex tips.
yeah.
It's like, okay. Oh yeah, then there's a scene with John basically explaining to Ygritte, like, look, the wildlings tried to invade 6 times. It's failed every time. We learned this since we're little. Like,
you see the difference. Like he is from a completely different world.
Yeah, like a structured place of privilege, and she's like a wildling.
Yeah,
and so he's just trying to get it through to her that, like, look, like, maybe we should focus on ourselves. Like, you're kind of involved. Like, you think you're going to win this war. Like, it's not going to happen.
Right. This isn't my world. Like, this isn't going to work. Because I think he has moments he's not going to be able. He's so conflicted with saying, and he thinks that he is going to be able to be with Ygritte. And I think all the stuff happening, he kind of realizes almost completely. Then at the end, I felt like, well, maybe he goes back to it, but he was thinking he could be with her. Yeah, I got like a sense of that. It was so good. The writing was so much better for Jon Snow's character, I felt like.
Yeah, he was emoting.
Yes. Emoticoning.
Yeah, that's it.
He's like, colon parentheses.
Because I think we were a little harsh, but one guy did agree with us in the comments. He said he agreed, like, the lacking of Jon Snow's character.
He didn't feel like fleshed out enough. I felt like in the thing, he was just lacking like something.
Because those chapters in the books, this is like this overriding concern that you're constantly reminded of, like, what am I doing? Is this
he's
correct?
like, I've broken my vow. He feels these things for Ygritte. He wants to be with her, but he can't. And now they're not going to accept him back. He's betrayed him. He's done this. He's always betraying somebody. He's wrestles with these things so much. And you saw, like, you felt more nervous for him because you realize that the one guy, the Warg, is right about what he's saying. Like, when he's saying, oh, Tormund, do you think, he loves you now or whatever? Well, he'll just, like, fucking kill you if he has to. You know what I mean? And he's right. Jon Snow is walking on very thin ice being with them. I was also like, I don't remember them in the book. I couldn't remember if they go really far walking around past the wall. I thought that he, like, leaves them at some point. Well, because there's some things that I'm dying to talk to you about.
I know. We should
some foreshadowing stuff that I think was awesome. But so we have to do like a small spoiler segment.
A separate episode.
Oh yeah, maybe we can do
that.
Like, yeah, we put a link. Yeah, make it like an unlisted thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that works.
And then we can, like, in the very beginning of it, we'll say that this has spoilers.
Yeah.
So that when they start listening, they can understand that, just in case.
All right. So after the Jon stuff, we get to a scene with Robb, Caitlin, Edmure, and.
Sitting around talking about they're delayed getting to the twins for the wedding, and they're talking about Caitlin saying how Walder Frey is going to be pissed off because he's going to take this as a slight because we're delayed, and he wanted.
It seems like everyone hates the Freys.
Yeah, everyone does hate the Freys. Yeah, the Freys are weird and they're jerks, and he's an asshole. The old Frey. They're talking about the wedding and everything like that, and how he's still going to be prickly about Robb not marrying his daughter, and even though he's getting Edmure it's like the best marriage that he could hope for his family. Mm-hmm. But I thought that the blackfish was funny in that scene.
Yeah,
with the wet shit comment.
Oh yeah, gross comment.
Nice wet shit.
And what does she say? She says,
"Oh, that he apologizes. He's like, oh, all the fighting and everything." And she's saying, being around all the dying men and tending to them and everything, she's not as intimidated by wet shits.
Right. And so then her and Robb have a smooch-a-thon, I wrote. And then you find out that she's pregnant.
Yeah. Look out. I thought that was the one scene where I thought the writing was really stupid.
Oh, really?
Was it me? Yeah, because I was like, I wrote it down. I love you. Do you hear me? And I'm like, yeah, she hears you. You're like inches from her face. I don't know. Sometimes when actors say lines like that, it just seemed a little corny and cheesy to me, and it just kind of takes me out of the moment. But he's like, do you hear me? I love you.
Yeah.
Do you hear me?
So, basically...
Robb, so she's pregnant.
They're going to have the wedding, and
they love each other, madly in love. They really built that up.
All right, so then we go on to
Sansi.
Sansi.
Where's Sansi?
Sansa and Margaery, and...
Sansa's, sorry, go ahead.
She basically just says, like, I'm so stupid.
Yeah.
Which I think
yeah, you are. She said that.
And, like, she's
her
still
bubble
obsessed.
has finally burst.
She's obsessed with, like, she wants to be like this Disney princess and, like, marry, like, a fancy prince guy.
Yeah.
And so Marjorie's like, look, we have to deal with certain things. And I think the lesson in that scene is to never dream.
Not in this world, anyway. Because where does it get you? It gets you shit. It gets you in the worst place you can possibly imagine. But what's funny, too, when Marjorie's really, like, going on, she really, I don't know if they really played it up in the show as much. In the books, they're like, Marjorie's sexual, I guess, integrity, like, if she's still a virgin or not, is still in question. And so, that's a big thing. And here, she's like, basically alluding heavily to the fact that, she has a lot of experience, a lot of sexual experience.
Right.
And so she's kind of advising Sansa, like, oh, it's going to be good, don't worry. He sounds like he's an experienced lover.
Yeah, like Sansa's basically saying, like,
it could
I hate
be worse.
Tyrion, like, he's horrible. And then she's like,
hey, I'm going to marry Joffrey.
She goes like, has he been kind to you? And he's like, yeah, I guess. Like, has he ever done anything to wrong you? Like, no.
Yeah.
And so then, Sansa kind of realizes, like, oh, this is weird that I'm complaining to you because... I've told you, this person is a monster.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man. We got to get to this part.
Yeah. We're almost there. But yeah, so that was an interesting scene. That was good.
Yeah, Marjorie understands that Joffrey's a lunatic, but I guess she has more worldly experience, and she just understands, like, look, in the end, sometimes things work out.
You still see Sansa still has this innocence that makes her stupid, though, when Marjorie was talking about all that stuff. Because she's like, oh, that's, she has no idea anything about sex or anything like that. And Marjorie's really like,
which leads
trying to help her. It seems
leads into the Tyrion scene, which is next. Which I wanted to point out. There's a lot of sex talk in this episode.
George Martin wrote it.
Yeah, well,
this has the most strange sexual things in it too.
Yeah, which
we'll get to
involved. Like talking about wet shits and sex. George Martin likes wet shit and sex, especially together. That's what I'm starting to notice.
He masturbates while he's shitting. I think that's what's happening here. And then he's coming up with ideas for the books as he's doing it. Ugh, I have to go to my thinking chair. That's what he calls it. And he goes, excuse me, I'll be borrowing this whole tube of lotion and this roll of toilet paper.
Okay, so Bronn
shitting.
This X-Lax.
Oh my god! Oh, can you imagine like the only way it comes up? Like some people, like they'll think a lot in the shower. Like I know I do a lot of thinking in the shower. You know,
because
it's like
pooping idea.
So this guy,
you say you have a lot of good ideas when you're swimming. Maybe that's his swimming ideas.
Right, yeah. Or, his shower idea. Or, like he took a bath, and he relaxed, like... But, no, he chugs X-Lax. He gets his like, little computer in there in the toilet, and he sits down... He starts jerking off.
He's goes to town.
He's got some porno mags. He's got a notepad and paper, and he starts shitting his brains out and jerking off. And he's like, yes, Jorah Mormont talks to Daenerys about yunkai in this scene, and he starts going on like that.
That's exactly how he does it.
Okay. All right.
God. Oh
Anyway,
my God.
moving on.
You just want me to draw that, don't you?
Yeah, I'm trying to see what you'll draw.
I'll go there. I will go there.
You've done it before. So Tyrion and Bronn.
Yeah, so Bronn is basically kind of having a similar conversation as Margaery and Sansa, where like they're trying to get, like, look on the bright side, like, and they're talking about like how old is she, like, well, who's the youngest girl you've ever had or something. It's kind of weird stuff.
There's a lot of stuff too, though, that I need to talk to you about.
We'll get to that. We'll get to a spoiler section.
Yeah, and a spoiler section.
Other thing, that wine looked really good, sweet and yummy.
Yeah.
I was wondering, since we had like Game of Thrones beer, I was wondering if there's like a winery that would make, like, what's the name of the wine? It's like something gold or
Well, there's Dornish Red.
and
what's the gold one?
it's something.
I can't remember. I'm
that's
sure
like
somebody
the
out there
fanciest
remembers
wine
it.
or something.
Yeah, there's really fancy wines. Yeah,
And so then we have a scene later on with Tyrion and Shay. Tyrion's like giving her gifts because I guess he feels guilty that he has to marry
the gold chains.
Sansa. Yeah,
And she's basically pissing him because she's now, even though she is a whore, she's basically mad because she's going to be his whore.
and also like Tywin is still like forbids their relationship.
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So every time they meet, it's
It's in secret, basically.
Right, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that still stands as far as we know.
okay.
But yeah, I thought Bran was really funny. That was a really awesome scene, which we'll talk more about later. And basically, yeah,
Bronn.
You know, what did I say?
Bran.
Oh shit, sorry. Bran was just on the TV before. That's why.
Okay, then we get to, this might be my favorite. Hold on, was it?
Well, then they cut to after the Bronn and Tyrion scene. They cut, and it's Joffrey rather.
Tywin and
Jesus
Joffrey.
Christ.
This is the scene after that.
I'm getting my Tyrion and Bronn, Bran Badu, Joffrey, Brian, and Tryon. Joffrey and Tywin.
I couldn't read my handwriting. Okay, so we get to Tywin and Joffrey. This was like my favorite
This is an awesome
scene. And I read this a few weeks ago, but I've been forgetting to mention it. Joffrey, the actor, which I should learn his name, he said he based his performance on Joaquin Phoenix in Gladiator.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a really good.
When I read that, I was like, okay, I definitely see it. Like that kind of.
But that's a really good inspiration because that's an amazing performance.
Yeah, that kind of like.
He's a major dick in that movie.
Total dick.
Yeah, he's just that kind of. He looks crazy.
He definitely has. That's awesome. That's really good. I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah,
that kid is so amazing in the show. And then.
First of all, Tywin's entrance I thought was so cool. It's just all these shots, and he's walking in. The flames are there.
Yeah.
And the first thing I noticed is like you can see. Joffrey starts talking to him and stuff, and you see that Tywin, like, you see, like, one of his veins. Or, you don't literally see it, but you can just tell, like, he's about to, like...
Yeah, he's like...
he might lose it and just start going, like, you fuck... Like, but,
listen, you fucking piece of shit!
Yeah, just when that's happening, they have, like, that close-up with the flame in the foreground.
Yeah.
Like, he's just raging, and I was like, oh, man, that's nice. And then, so Joffrey starts mentioning Daenerys, talking about these dragons, and Tywin says, look, it's nothing to worry about. Like, the last dragon that was even here... his head was like the size of an apple.
Yeah.
And like the biggest one was from 300 years ago. Like they're not that powerful. Like
right.
It's
right. Even if it's true, he's saying, even if these rumors are true that there are dragons now, it's going to be, they're not going to be suddenly she's going to be swooping in here flying on dragons, burning shit to the ground.
Yeah. Which I would love to see.
It takes so long. Right. But it's going to be something
which
that's
I
not
want to
happen
happen
overnight.
Yeah. And so Joffrey's like, why are you having your meetings with all these people like up in the Hand's Tower instead of in the council room or wherever they would normally have?
Yeah.
And it's like, I'd like to be counseled on stuff. And he's like, if you want, we can
have you carried there.
Yeah, there's like this silence. He's like, we can have it arranged to carry you there, like, you lazy shit. And so then Joffrey says, like, well, I've been very busy.
Yeah.
They literally show him
I've been shooting up whores.
killing whores. That scene is like Joffrey sitting on the throne, literally doing nothing.
Yes.
Like, what are you busy
He's
with?
brooding. He's coming up with paranoid schemes in his head. That's all he's doing. It's like the worst thing for somebody with his temperament and everything to just sit around.
Yeah, a guy like that,
and then come up with more and more delusions of what's happening around him.
A personality like that, you want to give him stuff to do because you leave him to his own head.
Yeah.
He just feeds himself.
He needs a more constructive hobby.
Needs an outlet.
Yeah, that doesn't include shooting his beloved crossbow into prostitutes.
Yeah, so then I wanted to ask you, what do you think Joffrey's like daily schedule is? Like, what's his itinerary when he gets up in the morning? Like, what's the first thing he does? Like, clean up, get dressed.
Yeah, takes a piss.
Then what? What happens after?
Blows one out.
When does the
I don't think he does.
No, you don't.
I don't think he does. I don't think
he never...
really. I don't think he really. He gets off not on just like sex, but on more of like violence, like physical abuse.
I could not guess what that guy does.
Because the thing, like in the
it's
books,
hard to
this
figure
is
out.
all the stuff they're showing with the whores and the killing and stuff. That's kind of like with the show, right? In the books, you don't really get a glimpse into that.
No,
side
all
of him,
you
right?
all you see him doing is like he comes along, Sansa's scared shitless, and he does something abusive. You know what I mean? And you get glimpses into like what a crazy monster he is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know like what he does with the most of his day. It seems like not much, and I think that's part of the problem that he's having.
Like sitting on
and
the throne.
things that he does do, he loves his crossbow. He loves like that technology. And I think he focuses a lot on that.
He's like a gun nut. He's like a medieval gun nut.
Yeah, basically.
Just obsessed with firearms, it seems.
Maybe, yeah.
And I loved when, he says something, I can't remember the exact lines, but when Tyrion, I'm screwing up all the names here. When Tywin comes up, he just Joffrey says something and Tywin's like, and then he just walks up slowly right up to him.
That was cool.
That shot with the close up of like his foot coming down right there. That was so awesome.
And you see Joffrey kind of has that look on his face, like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. Oh, okay, never mind. He's in control.
This is my stern grandfather, and like
he just reinforces like you're not in control here.
Yeah,
and,
it's like,
and then he even says, like he says something like, I should be informed, or somebody needs to, teach me how to do this or something. And he's like, you're being taught that right now.
Being counseled right now.
Yeah, you're being counseled right now.
Yeah.
He goes, I thought that was such an awesome. I got Charles Dance, the actor's name is. He's so awesome. Dance. That was a great scene.
Yeah, then it's Daenerys. We went to Daenerys.
Man, that was one of my favorite scenes of the episode.
That was my second favorite one.
That was so cool. First of all, she looks amazing in that scene.
Right.
She's
awesome.
She looks like a Greek goddess.
Yeah.
Sitting there. That shot, they have like the long train of the ambassador coming in to meet. She's going to meet from yunkai that's going to meet with Daenerys. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking he'd get there much faster if he just walked. It seems very impractical to be carried there like that.
It's such a winding path.
Yeah, I'd be like, speed it up, and it's got to be a bumpy ride. I mean, that can't be comfortable. I didn't get that, but anyway, so when he finally comes up, they're just like, you see the shot of Daenerys sitting there with the 3 dragons around her. That was such an awesome shot.
Yeah,
she looked like a goddess sitting there with these beautiful dragons. It was like the most intimidating and beautiful thing that this guy has probably ever seen.
And then, she throws up like a piece of meat, and it's like,
and she used them so awesomely. Yeah. Like, oh man, that was just so cool.
Like, where did she learn how to present herself like that? Do you think it just comes naturally to her?
Well,
she thinks she's like, part dragon. So
but she kind
does
of
believe it. She is. I mean, she has up to this point been believing more and more in herself. In the book, you see that it's not just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do. It doesn't come so naturally to her. She does have to think a lot about what she's doing, and she does, worry about making mistakes. And she does really trust a lot in Jorah Mormont and in Barristan Selmy, but she doesn't know in the book at that time that that's Barristan Selmy. But she does really rely on their counsel. But at the same time, her confidence is growing. And and she does really stick to her guns. Like now, what she's doing in the show is she's like this liberator, she views herself as. So she's going and freeing all these slaves. I don't know what the slaves are going to be doing once they're freed exactly.
Well, she tells them, like, you're going to give them all the property they need. You're going to feed them. You're going to provide them with everything they need as
then what?
Payment for their years of service. Then I don't know.
I don't know. Then what are they going to do? But I mean, like those are other issues.
It's better than slavery.
Those are other issues. I agree. But I'm just saying those are other issues that I feel like have to be addressed at some point. Yeah. There's 200,000 slaves there. You just free them all.
I'm still curious how she feeds the Unsullied army.
Well, that's part of why. Well, they did sack the one city.
Okay.
Because
Because I'm just wondering, like, she
where the
gets all these
Unsullied were
gifts
from.
of gold and stuff like.
She does.
But it seems
and they
like a
do
very
have to
barren place.
Yeah, and well, that's part of why these cities, and they even say like you have to sack cities to survive there if you're her.
Right.
And I mean Yunkai is like one of the most storied cities there, and it's that's going to be difficult. But it was awesome, like how she handled herself. In front of that ambassador, that was really cool, and the dragons looked fucking awesome. I thought that the effects, because I was worried about how they might show and how they might look in the show, but I think they've done a really good job.
Yeah, this is the best they've looked. Like, especially with the close up, that end shot where the dragon's like literally right next to her and she's like petting it.
Yeah,
like that looked really, really good.
And when the guy, he's like, she's saying, I'm giving you a gift as well, your life. When the one guy's leaving and he tells his slaves to take the gold and the dragon comes down and starts screaming at them. Yeah. I thought the dragon looked awesome there too. The effects looked great.
Mm-hmm. She's being very cutthroat.
Yeah, and she's in the show. She's really it really take too much advice from. She pretty much ignores Jorah Mormont more than takes his advice at this point.
All right, so then Gendry and Melisandre. So this is all like new stuff with Gendry.
Yeah, and this was really interesting because Martin wrote the episode, so he is now really taking his own story in another direction.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting, because that must have been really difficult, because this is not that's not from the book. If we're going to be like book versus show for a minute, because I haven't really been doing that too much in the last few episodes. But,
well, if you notice, I changed the title of it, and now it's just Game of Thrones cartoon review.
Yeah, it should be. It should be just. That
it was never really.
It was never really book versus show, but I did talk. I used to talk more about that.
Yeah.
But the show is so different, which is good. I like that, because I feel like when I'm watching it, like I really don't know what's going to happen, even though I've read the books. Mm-hmm. So it's not as boring as it could be sometimes, I guess, that way. But he's writing now, stuff that didn't happen in the book. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was really interesting. I wonder how he felt about that.
He said in interviews, like, the second you start changing something in the show early on, it's like it slowly changes into something bigger and bigger. It's like, when you launch a rocket to the moon, if you're off by a fraction of a degree, that rocket's going to be way off by the time you get there.
Yeah.
That's basically what's happening. But he's going with and he's also said like the show and the books are two separate things, which is the way it is. Like Lord of the Rings book is a completely separate entity from the movies. Like which I have no problem with. But,
I think it's really cool. I think that's really interesting that he did that, because that must have been difficult. But he wrote it, and he's written like one of the best episodes of the one of the best written episodes of the season so far.
And Dexter told me last week, like the third book, they're splitting into 2 seasons, which I didn't know. So
that's what I heard.
So that tells me like they're not stretching it out because there's so many characters, so many things to get to, but. I think they did it purposely because they want him to like, finish the books so we can get to it. Like,
maybe they're buying some time.
I think they definitely.
I saw a projected date for the next book because I was just curious to see if there was any new news about it. But then they were saying projected date 2015 for that to come out.
Oh my god!
So I mean, 2 more years, and that will be lucky if that's what happens. But I think that's a legitimate concern.
One guy says something funny online. He says he's using like this old DOS computer to write the books. Yeah. He's like, that's probably why it takes so long. Just to boot up the computer takes like an hour.
Probably, yeah. Then he forgets what he was going to write.
Yeah, and then just to like print or like save it takes like 45 minutes. Anyway, so then I like the shot with Gendry and Melisandre. You see all the sunken ships from the battle.
That was cool.
That was very cool.
That was really cool.
And then Gendry basically learns that she's like, this is where your father lived. And he's like, where? And he's like, right there, King's Landing, in the castle right there. And he learns his father was Robert Baratheon. And but the scene was kind of weird because I was like, should he be happy? Because isn't he going to get burned?
Well, then this is the thing, too, like that I was talking about where, with the show, I'm never quite sure even what's going to happen because... I don't know. I almost, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, maybe she's not going to burn him. Maybe that's not actually the plan here.
I was like...
Because I assumed that's what they were going to do, because that's what they were planning with doing in the book with Edric Storm.
Yeah.
Right? So I was thinking, well, maybe they actually have different plans for Gendry. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what. It's very
always
very
surprising.
Yeah.